Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday gathering. I hope you're all doing well this morning. I know there's a few in the chat already. Go ahead and make yourself known. I hope everybody had a great week. My week was, like many weeks, quite busy. Quite good. Good morning, Northbound. I hope you had a great week. Good morning, good morning. I hope that everyone in your house is doing well. I guess I can go ahead and put the chat up there as we start to get a few in. I do have a couple topics that are already on the list, but we'll look. I'll bring those up in just a second. Mick Grossum, good morning. It's so good to have you. Spring is finally here. Yes. Awesome. Planting some seedlings. Excellent. Francis Howard, good morning. Thank you for joining. Katie Turner, good morning. So good to have you all. Yeah, McGrossum, I planted a bunch of flowers, but I did it a few weeks ago, and they've been stagnant growing. They have not grown much at all. And so I think, I may have done it just a little too early. We still had a few weekends of cool weather, whatever, but they're starting to get better. They're starting to plump up a little bit. I'm expecting some growth now in the next few weeks. So, B. Nichols, good morning. Thank you for joining. Rick Bowser, Lindsay Ball, good to see you guys. Good morning. Happy Sunday morning. Maybe if I really get my flower garden growing, I'll take a picture of it and show it to you guys. You say you don't plant until the end of May. Yeah. I probably did a little early. I guess I was anxious. I was anxious for some beauty. I was anxious for spring. Stacia, good to see you this morning. You hit 80 2 days in a row. Yes. We've had a few nice days, for sure. Of course, you're in a different part of the country than me, but yeah, I think in general, it's getting there. We're getting there. Man, it's good to see you guys. B. Nichols, you jumped the gun. You killed a lot of greens too. Yeah, exactly. You're planting your veggie garden, Stacia? Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to do some vegetables this year again. I did some last year. My yield was bad because, again, I didn't plant at the right time. It's just my laziness. I did it a little too late. I got a lot of tomatoes. Man, I had tomatoes coming out my ears, and they were delicious. But yeah, I'm going to work on that this summer. I'm going to get some veggies going. All right, I'll put the topics up, guys, and let you guys start posting some topics if you've got them. And as I mentioned, I have two on there already. Northbound, your topic was a little different in nature, but I put it on here as Chronological Reading Plan for Bible Study, and that to me is kind of like the way I approach a Bible study plan in general. You had asked me a few weeks ago about do you have a opinion on which books outside the Bible are good to read and why and all that kind of stuff. And so this is kind of the output of some of that. We're going to talk through a chronological reading plan for Bible study, plus involving these ancient writings. I have them all in order, in chronological order, as the way I would approach getting a wholesale read through of, essentially history using the Bible and some of these other writings. So we've got that. And Rafa Sieber, I see you just joined. Good morning, sir. Your topic is on here, I think, from last week. I think you got it in a little late last week, so I put it on the list. And that is, how do you explain God instructing Abraham to sacrifice his own son? And so we'll talk briefly about that. And interesting that I was talking about that same exact topic with another person this week. So I think that's very apropos. Very good. But yeah, guys, get one, at least one more on there, maybe two, if you can. Yeah, I've got a few announcements I'll do real quick before we start. So announcements wise, I just wanted to mention again that I am making myself available for any kind of speaking engagement, meaning I would, at a request, I would find a time and schedule a time where I could meet with your Bible study group, or a group if it's just your family, or if it's just yourself, or if the interest is in having me come out to a church and speak to a group like that. I would be happy to do that. I want to make sure that everyone knows that I'm available for that and open to it. So just want to put that on the board each week. So as you guys go through this time period, you hear me say that, maybe something comes to mind of a group that you know that could benefit from a time to go through some of the material that we go through together, talk about it, discuss it. And I would be very happy and excited to do that. The second thing I want to mention is, again, the interviews or testimonials that I'm doing with people now. And I've done the two that I have released in the last couple of weeks. The first with Hillary, the second with Mary. And those have just gone over really well. Really getting a lot of good response. I've actually, on the back end of that, had people reach out and say, can I connect to that person to talk about that, because it's like the same as my experience. And so that has happened. I think all of that is just really special and important for us as a body of believers to connect with each other. First, to hear what's going on in each other's lives and how God is working, and how it's similar. We all have similar experiences in some way or another. But then also the ability to connect on that is just incredible. And so that's happening. And in fact, I have one or two more interviews in the works right now, where I'm working with people to discover what would be the most important things that we could discuss with them and use as testimonials for the channel. So I think that I'm just excited about that. It's a new kind of, a next level kind of thing that we're able to do on the channel that I think is just really powerful. And I appreciate those of you who've been involved so far, and those that will be. I'm excited about it. So those things, as far as announcements, the only other thing I want to mention is I do have some videos in progress I'm working on, and I'm always open to suggestions on topics for full research videos. I guess that's what I call, the videos I work on, I research, and I release is kind of research videos. But then, we'd have the live streams now, and we also have the interview testimonial type videos that we're doing. But the videos, research videos in progress right now, I've got more than 3, but I just thought I'd mention the top 3 I'm working on, and that is The Beast, a remake of my original video on the Beast of Revelation, the first beast, not the second beast. That video I took offline a long time ago because there was some audio problems on my original recording. I just wanted to reimagine that video, fix the audio issues, obviously, now that I've got better equipment. And so I'm redoing my Beast video. The other video I'm working on is the ancient calendars. We talked about the calendars just in, was it last week's or was it Easter? The Easter live stream, I believe, where, there's all this discussion about the ancient calendars, how they worked, what they were. And so I am researching that, and I have a lot of material already, but I think I'm about halfway through my research on that one. So that's where that is. And then the other one I'm working on, and is going to be probably more long-term, is the origins of modern cosmology. The cosmology of the earth, the stars, the heavens, the, quote, universe, as some call it. Still working on that. It actually runs me back through history into ancient philosophy, because that's where I believe it actually began. And I will be working on that one as well. So that's what's on my docket right now. And again, you're always welcome, guys, to request any kind of video, any type of research. And so, yeah, there we go. That's my announcements for the day. I'll probably think of something else later. I'll let you know. But let's get on the board. It looks like you mentioned a couple more topics. So let's get those up here real quick. Let me check y'all's chat, make sure I get it. Are holiness standards, this is superfluity of naughtiness, are holiness standards cultish? This is an interesting question. And superfluity, I think that has to do with the same topics that were discussed in the interview I did with Mary. And so I think that is very interesting, appropriate, relevant. I think it's a great topic. So maybe that is definitely one we can get to today. Superfluity ... Your name's too long, Superfluity. Rafa Sieber, you said also related to the part in the Bible where God told them to kill women and children. So I think you're saying related to the Isaac and Abraham sacrificing Isaac. It's really the question for you of, why would God tell anyone to kill anyone? Is that kind of what you're getting at? Because I think that's kind of a different topic. I think it's a different topic. It's related. You're right, it's related, but it's wholesale. It's kind of a different topic. Like, why? To me, this is the way that this should be worded. Why does God seem to be mean in the Old Testament? It's kind of a childish way of looking at it, maybe, but that's what that question is to me. But I'm going to put that probably as a, I don't know, future topic. Why did God tell Israel to kill women and children? So I will put that on there, Rafa, but probably make that a future topic. Kind of had that. I've done that topic a little bit before, but probably more we can do on it. Rafa, you said also, I read something second Esdras where the angel tells something like the world must start again. And I related with a CIA declassification document called the Book of Adam and Eve of Recurring Apocalypses. I'm going to actually take that down, Rafa, for next time or in the future. That is something I will have to research. There's a lot you just said in that one statement. So I'm taking that down, and I will look into some of those things for future. Then Stacia, I'm not missing your topic. You say, the verse, do not cast pearls before swine, is that relevant to the believer and non-believer alike? Maybe. Let's do that one. I like that one a lot. I like that topic. I like that verse. Let's see. Okay. So that is on there. Northbound, you like the idea of a whole video on cosmology? Yes, I think I'm getting there. Northbound. That's such a... It's such a hard topic because it's so broad, and it's like... So I have oodles and megabytes and gigabytes of information on the cosmology of the earth. Okay? Most of it is evidences for why either the what we're told about space from organizations like NASA what we're told about the world from organizations like NASA or the European Space Agency, or et cetera, the majority of the information is why those things are a suspect, right? So there's so much there, so much. At every turn, all that information comes up lacking, and there are inconsistencies and problems. And I could spend literally 24 hours a day for the next month probably going through all of those things. So the challenge with cosmology is, how do I present something in a nice package for 1 hour or less that is going to be impactful, right? And so I just have to figure out how to attack it. I think we've done some good discussions in the past here. But as far as those research type videos where I am encapsulating research, presenting a succinct topic that will be impactful. For instance, if you take one of the inconsistencies, only one, in maybe the International Space Station's work, then it's one of those things. If you only describe one problem in a video, then it's apt to be attacked. Do you understand? Like, people will debunk it or try to, right? What you want to be able to do is, in a short time period, present enough information that's undebunkable and impactful enough that people walk away from it going, I can't argue against that, right? So I don't know, I'm droning on about this, but to me, there's a lot of thought that goes into what's presented, how it's presented, and how much impact you can make with one video. So as opposed to, there's channels out there where you can go watch this stuff all day long, but they take a really long time to say stuff that maybe shouldn't take so long. And I don't want to waste people's time. So anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just the way it's playing out in my head. I just want to be very careful about how I do it. So, Rafa Sieber, you say you're having a hard time finding the second Esdras passage. That's okay. If you get it, let me know, and I'll try to jump in there. Come alive. Welcome, sir. Good morning. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I hope that that the prayers that are being floated out there are helping you. We care about you a lot. Hope you're doing well. Okay, let's see here. Making sure I'm not missing anything. Thoughts on the North Pole northbound. I see that, and I will put it on here. It may be something I do next time. We did do the North Pole in, I don't know, it was weeks ago now. It may have been before you started coming on. I don't know. We did a little bit about the North Pole. People were asking about the throne of God, the Northern Lights, things like that. I think Come Alive was involved in that conversation. But anyway, we can definitely chat about that as a topic. Okay, man, that's a big list. We better stop. Like an Eagle, welcome this morning. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Like an Eagle, you ask, what's my take on The Chosen TV show? It's a good topic because you know what? Even this week, I kept hearing people talk about this show, and I haven't seen it. I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball here. So, Like an Eagle, that's on my list. I just don't know if I can get to it today, and it wouldn't help if I got to it today because I haven't seen it. So what I may do is I may find it and watch some of it, at least some of it, if not all of it. Maybe I can binge that thing this week. I don't know, and then we'll talk about it because I've now you're not the only one that's asked me about that series, and I haven't seen it. So very good. Yes, Yes. Okay. I think we'll get started then, guys. I think we will get started. Let's get the first topic. Whew. Let's get the first topic on the list. And we'll get going. First topic is Northbound's topic of Chronological Reading Plan for Bible Study. That's what I'm calling this, even though Northbound, that wasn't exactly how you worded it. This to me is important. So this is I've almost got this to a place where I would recommend for Christians to do this reading plan to study the scriptures and understand them better. Armored Raven, good morning, sir. I didn't mention, but I saw you come on. I just couldn't say hi at that moment, so welcome. This reading plan, I think, is... So my intent with this reading plan is that you go, number one, through the Bible chronologically. So you know the order of when things occurred and what books came when. It's not a full chronological, meaning, you know, if you get a chronological Bible, sometimes they'll take chunks of books and really break them up. For instance, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, those books, I believe, all happen on top of each other. So they, in a chronological Bible, often you'll see like little chunks of each one and it's all split up, and then so it's kind of fragmented. In my reading plan, I don't do that because I don't like breaking books up as much. Now, there's a few cases where I do that, but you'll see why. In general, I don't break the books up. I just try to get them as close to a chronological order as possible so that it makes more sense. At least you know the time frame you're in when you're reading a book. So saying all that, I'm going to bring up on my screen the reading plan I've got thus far. And it is this. It is, let's see if I can make it a little bigger. So you'll see as I just briefly, for one, I'm mad because this is not a very beautiful font. There we go. It's all consistent now. Anyway, sorry. You can see now how I've got in here interspersed a few places these different writings. And so this is what I wanted. Do you see how now what you're going to do in this plan is you're going to read through Genesis to the point where Adam and Eve are cast out of the garden, and then you're going to pick that story right up in the first book of Adam and Eve. And yes, Northbound, I'm going to make this list available. It's actually already available on my website. I posted it last night so that you guys will all have the ability to get to it. Once I finish this live stream and then edit the details of it, I'll change the description and all that, and I'll put the link in there. But for now, if you want to just go straight to it and see it, you can go to bible-scribe.com and it will be on the homepage. It'll be the first link under the header. So it's there. And once you go there, you can literally, I'll show it to you. Why not show it to you guys? I don't know why I'm talking about it. Got the tools, I have the talent. So, come on. I'm trying to get my browser to come up. All right, come on. Man, my computer is dog today. It's dog. So on my website, the first link here, and I'll make it a little bigger, but first link, Chronological Reading Plan for the Bible and Other Writings. So once you go in there, it's the same thing you're looking at. The reason the link is not to the right is because each book is linked. So it'll pop open that book if that's what you want to go to and read it. You can do it right there. I personally am not... I'm not too keen. I hate actually now reading online. It drives me nuts. My eyes, I don't think, are very good anymore. It kind of annoys me. So I much rather would buy these books or find a way to get them and then read them in a book. But that's, up to you. So this is all here, the whole list. But anyway, so looking through here, I just wanted to mention a few things. Like you see now that I'm getting these books interspersed. For me, of particular interest is Genesis. Okay, Genesis is one of the least detailed books as far as the information it contains. surrounding things like creation, Adam and Eve, their expulsion from the garden. It just, in 3 chapters actually, if you just take out creation, you just talk about Adam and Eve, you only get 1 chapter of information about Adam and Eve. So that's why I'm filling in a lot of gaps here. You jump over the first book of Adam and Eve, you get the information. It may not all be 100% accurate, but it's information about Adam and Eve after they left the garden and what happened. Then Genesis 4 and 5 occur. And then the book of Enoch, chapters 1 through 13, talk about the fall of the angels and how they came down to mankind and started screwing with everything and messed everything up. Then in the fragment of Noah, you're going to get the story of Noah's birth and why it was significant. And it talks about Lamech. It's a very short writing. Some of these writings, by the way, are not long. But the detail they help add to the story of the Bible is just invaluable. I mean, unbelievable. So then we go back to Genesis. I put Job in the middle of Genesis because I believe after the Tower of Babel and the splitting of the nations, I believe that's about the time frame we're talking about Job. It could have been before the flood, but based on the content, I really feel like Job's story is after the flood. So I put it here. Genesis 12 to 15, that ends with Abraham and his sacrifice of the divided meats. If you remember, he divides I think it's a goat and a calf maybe, and a bird, a dove. And he divides them at the instruction of an angel, right? Well, the Apocalypse of Abraham tells you exactly what that was. It was all about God's promises to Abraham, but in fact, God also showed Abraham his plan from heaven. So the Apocalypse of Abraham explains all that. We pick back up into Genesis, and then the ladder of Jacob explains the vision of Jacob's ladder. Another vision that's just mentioned in the Bible, but not explained. So that gives you that context. You hit the ladder of Jacob, you wonder, why are there 12 steps? Why are there either these faces or whatever they are on each step? What is all that? The ladder of Jacob explains that 100%. Then Genesis, we finish out. And most of this now from Genesis through most of the Old Testament is pretty standard stuff. It's just ordering the books in terms of the time period. It's the time period of what's happening in them, right? So there's 2 different ways you can date books. One is by when you think it was written, but it could have been written way after the fact of what the events that are recorded in it, right? So this is ordered against the events that are recorded in each book. So then you go through time here and you read through the Old Testament prophets. I do add after Ezra, 2nd Ezra or 2nd Esdras, because I believe that is definitely a key prophetic book, as well as the 3 books of Baruch, which are said to have been written and given to Baruch after Malachi, after the Old Testament, but before Jesus' birth. So that's why they're listed here. So then here you see Jesus' birth. You have the Gospels in the order of their, essentially these Gospels are listed in the order of their writing, but also, for instance, Luke contains all of the information about Jesus' birth, whereas some of the other Gospels don't. So they're kind of in an order that's intentional here. But then we have the Gospel of Bartholomew, because that is supposedly a conversation between the apostles and Christ before his death. That's what it says at the beginning of that writing. That's one that opened my eyes to some different topics. These are topics of the early Christian church. And so you have to understand that whether you think everything in it is correct or not, the early church believed a lot of what's in this writing. So you have to reconcile yourself. And I see y'all are talking a little bit about pseudepigraphal works, apocryphal works, and discernment. I believe it's all about discernment. I had a person this week on the channel that I'm familiar with reach out to me in an email and ask about some of the apocryphal books of the New Testament. We were talking about how, yes, you have to use discernment. You can't go in blindly and pretend that every writing is like the Word of God. It's not. And so you have to have a level of discernment. You really should know the Bible and be able to compare what you're reading against the Bible. I think that's key, because I think the Bible has probably the most authoritative writings of anything out there. So to me, the Gospels, the Bible is the standard by which we measure all these writings. How well do they fit? Are there things that contradict? And just because there seems to be a contradiction, we can't always just assume that that is a true contradiction unless we've really studied it out. So yes, Armored Raven, you say pray for discernment and measure against Scripture. It's exactly the right approach. So I think that is the approach you should take. So yes, be careful with the writings as you read them, check them against the Bible, and pray about it. I think God will bless that. He will bless that, because in the end, you want to know him better. That's the whole point of all of this. So after Jesus' resurrection, I think the immediate thought for me is the Gospel of Nicodemus, because it talks about what happened when he was down in Hades, what that whole thing was about. So that whole story is pertinent at that time frame. Then we go straight into the Acts of the Apostles, where we have the Passover and the word starts to spread. The apostles, the disciples, are working throughout the next 40 years to spread the gospel along with the Christian church. That's the whole point. So we read about that now in the writings of Paul. So here we go down the line. I tried to, best I can tell, sort these according to when I think they were written. And it's just a kind of combination of what do the scholars say plus what is in these writings. How do I feel about what's written in them? Every book, every writing of the New Testament has a kind of a spirit about it, a soul. You can, when you read them fast and you read them as a whole, each of them, you start to get a sense of the thought and the feeling behind it, the intention of the writers. Was Christ coming like imminent? Like, were they scared? Were they being killed for their testimony? That's probably in the middle of that time period, that 40 years. And then you come to where there's a few books that are less like crucial. Things aren't as imminent. Things aren't as serious. And that to me is like 2 Thessalonians, Jude, Titus, 2 Peter. So I place those personally after Jesus coming in 70 AD, because they don't seem like, they're not hammering on you're going to be with your loved ones even after his coming. Get ready. Watch. It'll come as a thief in the night. All that is not in these books. It's just not in these books. And then also I include the Epistle of Barnabas after Jesus' coming. Scholars agree that that's kind of a late book. And what it does, though, is lend help and more information about, just like the book of Hebrews, how did the law relate to Christianity? How did it relate to the new covenant? How did all of that get fulfilled? What did it mean? And why did God have the Israelites do those things? So to me, that is a very important writing, but it is after Jesus coming in 70 AD. It's something the Christians had, probably Jewish Christians. And so there you've got that. So this is the totality of how I feel about, and this is just the most important to me, the most important thing to see as you go through. There are other writings. So, there's tons of other writings. Okay, so and these are important. These are important. The Book of Jubilees, I think, is important. Book of Jasher is important. What are some of the other? I mean, honestly, when I read through the Dead Sea Scrolls, that was important. It's so important. And I want to show you something real quick. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Yep, here it is. Just so you understand what happened when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, most people don't get this. You think there was a couple scrolls, a few big scrolls or something in a pot or two in a cave. No, look at this. The Dead Sea Scrolls, it was ridiculous what was found. In Cave 1, we have 6 major scrolls. These are big scrolls that were found. Cave 3, we had a copper scroll that described the treasures of the Temple of Solomon and where they were kept, how they were hidden. When Israel or Jerusalem was invaded. Cave 4, look at all these different scrolls that were found in Cave 4. I have these cataloged because I wanted to know everything that was there. Look at all these. We have stuff on Genesis, a vision of the Son of God, apocalyptic chronology. Where else are you going to find this? Enoch and the Watchers, the astronomical book of Enoch. There's so much. King Melchizedek. There's a messianic apocalypse. I mean, all this stuff, some of it's fragmentary, right? So I just want to make the point that the Dead Sea Scrolls was a huge find. Huge. Massive. Cave 11. Do you see this cave 11? There were that many caves where they found this stuff. Here's the full catalog that I've got. Cave 1. This is all the different papyri and fragments they found. Cave 2, there's a huge list. Cave 3, there's another list. Cave 4, there's another list. Do you see this? And these back up the Bible we've got. Joshua, Judges, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. Do you know what this means? It means, number one, that everything is true. Everything. These writings were found and were known to have been hidden at the time of Christ. Hidden in these caves at the time of Christ. However, they are known to have been dated way back, hundreds of years before that. So this proves that everything we believe about the Old Testament, about Christ coming and the Messiah and when it was going to happen is true. But this is just a continuation. Do you see? This is all in Cave 4. It's ridiculous how much. There's more about Enoch, Israel and the Holy Land. The War Scroll, by the way, is an incredible document. Incredible. I'm still scrolling through Cave 4 because it's ridiculous how many pieces they found. Cave 5, Cave 6, Cave 7. Do you understand the breadth of this? So to me, when I'm talking about books that are important, it's like after you get your overall view from the reading plan, to me, there's all these things that you can go through that will just completely broaden your understanding and again, reinforce the things you read in the reading plan. That's what's so incredible about all of this, is as you read, it reinforces and supports what you already knew about the Bible. And maybe clarifies pieces, clarifies things, helps you fix problems that you had as you read through the Bible. Then after that stuff, I mean, there's of course more pseudepigrapha, apocryphal Old Testament writings. Some of the, Tobit, Judith. I think Maccabees is good. I haven't really read all of Maccabees because to me it's a lot of history that I just didn't find as compelling for my Bible study as some others. But then in the New Testament, we have Clement, we have Tertullian. These are important. Irenaeus. I think particularly, and I would put Irenaeus above Tertullian. Those are good ones. There's a small writing or two by Polycarp that is important, I think. It's good to see how those Christians lived and how they had to die for their faith. But I'm just saying, guys, like this is to me how you study. If you know the Bible, you've been through the Bible, I would suggest having read through the Bible at least 2 or 3 times before you start this plan. And I would also suggest that one of those times you read through the Bible as fast as you could. And there's a reason for that, because it forces you to stop looking at the verse by verse details and see the big picture. See the whole thing at a glance, so to speak. So I mean, like reading through the whole Bible as fast as you can. I think, the fastest I've probably ever read through the Bible was maybe 6 months or less. because some of the books are just really long. But even if literally you are almost skimming, it's really not a problem. Don't feel like you're cheating God or cheating yourself or cheating the Bible to do that once. Go as fast as you literally can through the Bible. It helps you, again, not pay so much attention to this verse, why does it say that? Or this verse, why does it say that? But to force yourself to get the whole picture all at once. So to me, that's the start. 3 times through the Bible, once fast, one of those 3 times fast, and then a reading plan like this that helps you fill in the gaps. That the Bible is just, it doesn't talk about everything. It just doesn't talk about everything. That whole thought of, or idea that for some people act like the Bible encapsulates everything ever. And that's not true. It was never intended to do that. It was never intended to encapsulate every story from all of history. It doesn't. It can't. So we have to realize other writings are valuable to help us understand more. And that's just the reality we live in. That's the truth of the matter. So anyway, there it is. There's the reading plan. I think it's good. I could probably refine it a little. But it is, again, it's on the website. You guys can hit that up and look into a few of these different writings. And I just hope that you go in with a discerning mind and an open heart and a prayerful heart. Because I think if you're asking God for discernment, for understanding, He's going to bless you. But this is a way you can do that. You can learn more. And at the very least, I think you should agree that more information is better than less information, right? More information, good. Less information, bad. So that's it. That's it. I think Northbound, maybe that helps you. Maybe that gives you kind of something to start from. Northbound, you asked earlier, where would I say the book of Jasher goes on the timeline? The book of Jasher is spread all over. It's, let's see. Oh, where is it? Let's see. Hold on. Yeah. Don't know. I had it linked, but I don't now. Let me see something. Hold on. Change stars, a little treat in here. Here we go. I wanted to show this because I've started doing that. Well, that's frustrating. Did I not push it up? Oh. So I started this. It's not available yet. I mean, it's there, but you can't really get to it. It's not linked. Do you see here how I was trying to map some of these books against the Bible? So you got Jasher 1 through 59 overlaps Genesis. 60 and 60 through 64 is not in any of the Bible, right? Chapter 60 through 64 outside the Bible, but it would be in this time frame. Then, of course, Jasher picks up in Exodus. There's some of it that it overlaps Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua. Okay, do you see how that is? So it's all over the place. Jasher overlaps a lot. Lindsay Ball, you ask, well, that means the Book of Mormon should be read. I think if you are experienced in the Bible, then you could read the Book of Mormon, but we all know the Book of Mormon was written less than 100 years ago by a man named Joseph Smith. So if you see that as a valuable book to your study of God, then by all means, read the Book of Mormon. I'm not going to argue with you on that. In fact, I have a Book of Mormon because I bought it for 50 cents or maybe a quarter at my local used bookstore because I thought, well, I'll read through this thing, maybe see what they believe. I'll be honest, I couldn't get through but a couple chapters because it was so in conflict. It was in such conflict with the Bible. So I just was like, this is not worth my time. It's totally bogus. And seeing as it was written on paper less than 100 years ago, the Book of Mormon is of no use to me. Okay? So that's what we're talking about, discernment, Lindsay, right? You can't just blanket say that everything is good. I didn't say that, even about the writings that I just presented. But we have to have discernment. We have to be able to go to ancient writings, which we know are ancient, not the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon is useless. But ancient writings and at least and examine them for what they say. And so how does that compare to the Bible? If anyone on this live stream just does not agree 100%, you'll never read anything outside the Bible, maybe that this is not for you. I don't know what to say about that. It's not for you then. Then just read the Bible and glean whatever it says and then fill in the gaps yourself, because that's what you will have to do. So come alive. I see you gotta go. I'm sorry about that, but have a great day, brother. Your wife and son just showed up. All right. Well, it's good to see you this morning. God bless you. We'll pray for you. Later, Gator. All right. So I think we're done there. Okay. Let's be on the next and what do we got? April Crawl, good morning. Thank you for jumping in. I'm so glad you're here. So glad to see you. I don't know your time zone or anything like that, so I don't know if it's super inconvenient for you to be on the live streams, but I'm super happy you joined. All right, next topic. So what is the next topic? I don't even remember. Rafa Sieber, explaining the instruction of God to sacrifice Isaac, for Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. So let's do that. Let's get that on the thing. Why did God tell Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? Man, why would you do that, God? Why would you do that? So let's go here. Just trying to get to it real quick. Make sure I remember where we go from here. Genesis 22 is the chapter of Isaac's sacrifice. Okay, so Genesis 22, I think what would be best, and because this is a topic that more than one person has asked about, I think we should read the story, right? So let's do that. Came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, behold, here I am. Now, I want you to think about this. A lot of people have a problem with that word tempt. And they're like, God says, or Jesus says in the New Testament or whatever, that God would never tempt any man, doesn't tempt anyone. Well, there's a lot of context there. And I think the way I feel about it is this word, by the way, in Hebrew is not necessarily tempt specifically. Tempt having a negative connotation in English. The word is really to test or try someone. And so the Hebrew word can mean both things. It can have a positive or a negative connotation. So the Hebrew word, and I don't remember what the Hebrew word is, it can mean both to test someone in a positive way or to tempt someone to do evil things. It's the same word for two different things in English. That's why there's confusion. It maybe softens the conflict that you may feel when you see God tempting Abraham to do this. So the way we can look at it is God was testing Abraham. In verse 2, he said, take your own son, Isaac, whom you love, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell you of. So Abraham rose in the morning, saddled his donkey, took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted his eyes, saw the place afar off, Abraham said to his young men, "Abide ye here with the ass, the donkey, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship. Come again to you." And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, took the fire and a knife. They went together. Isaac spake unto Abraham and said, "My father." He said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for this burnt offering?" And Abraham said, "My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering." And so they went both together. And they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac, and laid him on the altar for the wood, or upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And an angel of the Lord called to him out of heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." And he said, "Here am I." He said, "Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything for him. For I know that you fear God, seeing that you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." And Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up as the burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called that place Jehovah Jireh, as it is to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And etc., etc. So really the rest of this is the angel of the Lord calling out to Abraham and then blessing him again, telling him of the promises of God. So let me catch up now that we've read the story. Let me catch up with your comments real quick. Northbound, you said God never intended Isaac to be sacrificed. He just wanted to test Abraham. Karen Morgan, welcome this morning. You say, you're talking about your boys going fishing, so that's cool. So you're in peace this morning. You can listen. That's great. Sean Shea, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. Northbound, you say, God was always going to interject to spare Isaac's life. Now, I agree with all these things. So going back up and kind of falling back through it again, there's so many things. And guys, every time I come back to these things, like if I was going to let myself, I'd get emotional again, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. Just like, what did we read earlier? Like a couple live streams ago, we read about Passover. Do you remember that? And how, as we re-examine that, every single thing about Passover related to Jesus Christ. And in this same instance, as I read back through this, oh my gosh, guys. Okay. It's a burnt offering. We know that Jesus went after his death into Hades and came out. Hades is a place of fire. Abraham rose early in the morning, and what did he do? He saddled his donkey. Christ came into the city of Jerusalem in the first century on a donkey, on the foal of an ass, as Isaiah said. You can see how these prophecies and all the picture God painted through history connect to show you that his plan for redemption was set from the beginning. Oh my goodness. And then he clave the wood for the burnt offering, just like the wood of the cross. He put that on his son. Think about this. This is blow your mind. Abraham, in obedience to God, put the wood upon his son as a burden, just like God put the wood of the cross upon his son, Jesus, as a burden. They rose up, they went to the place which God had told them about. And on the third day, guys, the 3 days and nights in the grave, 3 days. Abraham lifts his eyes and sees the place. Every single piece of this is speaking to Christ. It's a picture. And so many things God did in the Old Testament seemed, as I, learn more and more about what Christ really did, it's a picture. So Abraham said to his young men, "Abide here with the donkey, and me and the lad will go and worship and come again." Do you understand the significance? Abraham and Isaac, a picture of God and Christ, saying, we're going to go and worship to the top of the mountain What mountains in heaven? Mount Zion. And that they're going to come again. They're going to come again. They said it to two people, two men who were with them. Are these two men a picture of both Israel and the church, perhaps? I don't know. I'm not saying that's 100% true, but you have to think about why were there two men waiting for the Savior to come back, the redeemed to come back down off the mountain. I don't know, guys. When I read this stuff, I get so excited because it makes so much sense. Oh my goodness. So Abraham takes the wood of the burnt offering, lays Isaac on it. God laid Christ on the wood of the cross, took the fire in his hand and a knife. Now realize, Rafa, as we're talking about this, and we'll go more to the why did God do this in a second, but note that it never says Abraham actually lifted the knife as if he was really ready to strike Isaac. It does say he took the knife in his hand and got ready. But at this point, God, we always see the pictures, right? We see the pictures people have drawn of Isaac in this raised position, ready to just kill his son. But that's not necessarily what the scripture is saying here. It says he prepared, he got everything ready. With his knife in hand, he probably was still wondering, God, why are you making me do this? Why? I don't understand. Please provide a substitute. I don't want to kill my son. He probably was sad. Just as in the picture we're painting, God was just implicitly sad that he had to destroy his son physically to atone for the sins. So his son, Isaac's like, what is going on? He says, my son, God's going to provide the lamb. It says Abraham takes the knife. He gets ready to kill his son. And the angel of the Lord calls out and says, Abraham, stop. Don't lay your hand upon your son. Don't do anything. I know now you fear God, seeing that you did not withhold your own son. God did not withhold his own son to send and redeem mankind, to redeem us. And so there's a replacement. There's a replacement. Isaac is not killed. Abraham passes the test. And God has now, Rafa, think of this. God has now painted one of the most amazing pictures of what he was going to do for mankind in the future with his son, Jesus Christ. One of the most amazing pictures of that sacrifice, both on the part of the Father and the Son, to do the work of redemption of man. So, to me, yes, it seems like, why did God have to go to this extreme with Abraham and Isaac, Abraham's only son? Why was it this way? Did Abraham understand that or did he not? Probably Abraham was confused, I would assume. But in doing this, in this test of Abraham, he painted the perfect picture of the sacrifice of God's only son. And also solidified, by the way, do you realize the connection between Abraham and faith, and that we are all children of Abraham in the sense of our faith, as the picture is painted in Hebrews, the book of Hebrews. So this solidifies in this picture that God paints with Abraham, that Abraham is the start of the race through which the lineage through which all men would be saved. Because Abraham in faith and we in faith come to the Lord. We come to God through the Son and his sacrifice. Everything there fits together perfectly for me. I mean, it's just, yes, as you said, Rafa, verse 12 is beautiful. He said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything to him, for now I know that you fear God. seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. It's beautiful, for sure. Northbound, you mentioned you think it speaks also to Isaac's faith. He was a teenager who could easily have struggled against his elderly father, but there's no account of that. He allowed himself to be bound. It's true. It's true. He definitely was an obedient son. Obedient unto death, as it says about Christ in the New Testament. He was obedient unto death. The parallels just keep coming, don't they? It's like, oh my goodness. We may be talking about one of the most significant portions of the Old Testament, period. I mean, one of the most significant. It's unbelievable what we've just read and what we're talking about, you know? And what honestly blows my mind is that the Jews in modern times and ever since Christ, they ignore how that parallel exists. Everything about it. And they ignore the prophecies that even speak to some of these things that were foreshadowed further on in the Old Testament. And they all line up. And then Christ comes and fulfills every single bit of it at once. Whatever. I mean, I feel bad for the Jews that refuse to recognize this stuff. I just feel bad for them. Yeah. So to me, that's an amazing, amazing passage of scripture. Amazing. It makes me sad that, you know, you guys mention these things and bring me back into these scriptures again. And I'm like, man, it's my old friend. Genesis 22, my old friend. I haven't seen you in so long. It's so good to be back to see you again. These passages, you know, just like for all of you, when you come back to them again, you see more and more. You see more every time. It's really cool. All right. Whew. That's good things. Northbound, you love the book of Genesis. There's so much there. Exactly. There is so much. There's a lot there. Yeah, I thought about that when we were on the other part. We were talking about the reading plan. And I said something about, there's a lot that's not in Genesis. Well, that's mostly concerning the first, parts of creation and Adam and Eve. But you're right. In general, it goes through so much history in Genesis. So many things are in that book. Definitely one of the most helpful books of the entire scriptures for understanding and that history. But okay, I'm getting there. What time is it? Let's make sure I'm good on time. Let's go ahead and think about the next topic. Superfluity. Let's get your holiness topic on the board. I'm going to put it this way. Is striving for holiness and purity cultish? Maybe that's the way I'll put it. You said it are holiness standards like modest clothing, no butch haircuts for females, etc., cultish. And I think this is a very apropos topic, especially based on the fact that I released that interview this week with Mary, and that topic was very pertinent in the religious organization that she was a part of. So I think it's very appropriate. So let me think about how to approach this discussion. How to approach. So that was one of the things about Mary's testimony that as I did that interview and then I watch it back, of course, while I'm editing, I watch it like 5 times or 10 times. One of the things I thought about was like, well, that practice wasn't so bad. If they said, oh, the women should wear dresses, and cover themselves in a very pure way, that's not a bad thing, is it? No, that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I think it's actually a really good thing. So we could talk about each of those types of things individually, and probably, let's talk about the way that females dress. So if I go to the mall today later and I walk down the mall, just after 30 seconds of walking, I will probably have seen the form and, shape and silhouette of about 30 or 40 women's backsides, right? Because they're going to be dressed in, tights, yoga pants, all these things. And that's just the way things are now. So do I think that's good? No, I do not think that's good. I have a daughter, so it's one of those things. It's hard. It's hard because in doing what you think is right and things like that, you are going to put yourself at odds with the culture. If you, for instance, walk down the mall as a woman in a Amish style dress, 18th, 19th century style dress with, some lace and some frills and flowers, and it's pleated and it has, a funky neck collar with, I don't know, whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I'm talking about. Then you're going to get looked at. You get people cutting their eyes at you. They'll think strangely like, oh, there's some weird either Amish person or religious fanatic, because that's the way our culture is. I do think there's middle ground to be had there. Like we taught our daughter, for instance, and generally my wife and I had some different ideas on what we should have our, tell our daughter how to dress. Some of those she heeded, some of those she did not as much. I'm personally of the opinion that it's okay for some of the modern trends to be observed, but you need to cover your parts, cover your parts up. Nobody wants to see that. It's not healthy. It's not good for you from a standpoint of being exhibitionary in the way you dress necessarily. And it's not good for other people who might struggle with things you don't understand to see that all the time and be tempted by that. And so, there's a lot of ways, and that's not necessarily the right approach. For me and my wife and my daughter, we attacked it kind of like that. So do I think the idea of being chaste and pure is bad? Absolutely not. It's actually really good. But where it becomes cultish is when those rules and those ideas and those practices are imposed upon a congregation or a group, a membership. So for a cult, it is about conformity. It is about control. So if they can dictate to you the way you need to solve those questions, the way you need to answer those questions in your own life, now we're getting to a place of cultism. Okay. When there's a group of people or a person telling you you're making the wrong decision, you need to do it this way. Now, we should, of course, as believers, encourage each other to be chaste, pure, holy. So, in some sense, there is going to be a point at which we should definitely not go past with purity, holiness, those types of things. But we should never use that as a mechanism of control. When we read about discipline in the early church in the New Testament, it was about people that were steeped in bad practice. It was people that were unrepentant and doing bad things and then not responding to rebuke. When it was obvious that, you're going way outside the bounds of Christianity here, you're not doing what Christ taught, you're not, then, and we all as a body have a problem with that. That's saying, people with this idea and that idea, many different ideas, all are agreeing that, you're way outside the bounds of what Christ taught. So you need to shore that up, or you're going to have to get out of our assembly, right? To me, that is where Christian discipline comes into that for the church. It's like, you're unrepentant, you're flaunting this sin of yours in public, you're not only hurting your testimony, you're hurting our testimony. That's it. That's the line. You're now out of our body until you can figure out how to fix this problem in your life. So that to me makes sense. I mean, it's not always so cut and dry, but I think it is to a point. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that these laws of purity and chastity and holiness, it's not a problem to have standards, but it's a problem when you're using the standards to smack people on the head with a stick, with the standard. And instead of taking care of the outliers, for instance, so if a religious group that's really heavy on these purity principles is not only taking out the outliers that are way outside the box, but they're using it as a bludgeoning stick to smack every member back into line, that's cultism. Okay? That's a cult. Does that ring true to you guys? How do you feel about that? I mean, to me, that's where the line is. Like, once it's a control mechanism, you're no longer doing what holiness is. You're not striving towards holiness. Instead, you are chastising people. You're just essentially demoralizing the body of Christ. When everyone wants, if you're really a Christian, you want to be holy, you want to do the right thing. So is it a problem when different people are working that out in their own way and trying their best? Or should we essentially force everyone into a box of conformity where we can keep an eye on you and make sure you're all doing the right thing, and we can recognize easily if you're not because you didn't follow the law we put in place. So now we're going to smack you. We're going to put you back into line, or else we can shame you. We can do these things to you. We can, in the end, remove you from the body. But to me, that's where the line is drawn. It's holiness is not a control mechanism. It's a goal. And if people are moving towards holiness, I have less of a problem. If you are flaunting a rejection of holiness, that's a problem for sure. I'll tell you guys, honestly, I struggle sometimes in the regards to clothing and dress and things like that. I like to be kind of flamboyant in the ways I dress and present myself. If I don't check myself, right? So I don't know how that sits with some of you, but it's like, I used to have really bad taste. Oh man, bad taste in clothing. I didn't have a clue. Thankfully, my wife helped me a little bit see myself from the outside and be like, oh yeah, that's kind of dumb. I shouldn't have wore that kind of thing. But so I understand that. I understand a intent, like a desire to, I don't know, be a little exhibitionist, if you will, by the things you wear or the way you dress, or trying to stand out instead of just be chaste or holy. I get that. And I understand that feeling because it's something I have struggled with too. And I know to me too, I think this is a really good conversation. It's a really good thing to talk about. And I wish I had more context for the way you females have to deal with this stuff. I know it's harder. It's harder for ladies because, for instance, you go into a store, and I know this because of my daughter, you go into a store thinking, I want to dress in a holy way, but also look cute. And you go into a store and literally there's nothing in the store that doesn't reveal part of your body. You literally, from a female standpoint now in our culture, you have a hard time finding the clothes that will portray you as a holy woman. And so it is difficult. It's not easy. And then you try to project that down. And if any of you on the call have younger daughters, teens, or even younger, you realize that there are some times you go into stores and you can't buy a single piece of clothing for your child because it's not right. It's not right. it's a struggle. Like, we struggled when my daughter was young, and this is, of course, years ago now. We struggled just to find nice dresses for our daughter. So, yeah, struggling to find a dress for church, a dress that she could go out that wasn't skin tight or short, so short that, you know, we were afraid that something was going to pop out or something. Katie Turner, you ask what flamboyant looks like to me. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to get into all the details, but I mean, just like, you know, especially as a younger man, you'd work out or something. You think you look good, and so you do things to accentuate that, or, you know, I don't know, whatever. So it's just like, just for me, that was a struggle, you know, make sure that, especially as I became a father, that I was modeling a more kind of conservative type of dress to my children. But I don't know, there's not much more detail there. But bright floral shirts, you know, those are okay. Yeah, shoes without socks. I am notorious for wearing shoes without socks. Does that tell you something? My feet don't sweat a lot, so that doesn't really cause an odor problem for me. Some people it does. Mick Grossum, I think it's hilarious. You say you have 3 daughters, and your 15-year-old is a struggle, and your 20-year-old dresses like a boy. So my daughter tends to be very tomboyish, and it's funny, she owns very beautiful clothes, and she is literally can be one of the most beautiful ladies probably I've ever seen. And of course, I guess it adds to it the fact that she's my daughter. Of course, I think she's beautiful anyway. But the thing that kills us is she'll go get dressed for some event, like we're going out to eat or we're going to church or whatever it is. She comes down the stairs, and literally my wife and I's jaw hits the floor. We're like, that's the most beautiful outfit. You look great. And then 10 minutes later, she will go back upstairs and change into something like you're talking about, tomboyish, kind of like she'll put on her jeans and some, you know, frumpy shirt. We're like, oh my gosh, daughter, please. You are so beautiful, and instead, you are playing yourself down and not doing yourself justice. So that's what I see there. I don't know if you mean the same thing, McCrossum, but it feels like that. It's like, oh, why do you do that? I think, McCrossum, you're saying your 24-year-old daughter is gender confused after college. I hate to hear that. It's so easy for that to happen these days. I was thinking about some of that this morning, and I know that as my kids were growing up, I mean, they're not that grown up, but they're older. Some of their teenage years, were literally my wife and I holding on for dear life, just praying that they could make it through those years and not have their minds turned into mush. That's what it feels like these days. It's almost like you almost feel like you have no control. You are holding on for your dear life and the lives of your children, and you are praying that in the time they are not with you, that they are not just totally propagandized beyond what they can endure, and that they can make reasonable decisions and not be just totally brainwashed. I mean, it's literally the reality we live in. So, McGrossum, you probably have some bitterness about that or regret, but I would encourage you, you know, we do the best we can as parents, and it's so hard. It's so hard for these kids. They are literally being attacked by Satan directly through the educational system and the government. They are trying to take them out of our hands, so we have no say over what happens with our own children. So it's literally a battle we're in, and some of us are just, no matter how hard we fight, we won't win the battle. And I hate to say that. It makes me so sad. I'm just saying, my kids are in a pretty good spot, but they still have issues. There's issues they struggle with because of some of that propaganda. And it's not easy. It will never, this fight for me with my children will never stop. I try to continue to speak truth into their lives every time we talk. And I know sometimes they hate that from me. They hate that sometimes, but I still am going to do it. I'm going to try to tell them what I think's right. And, they have some things they're really good about and understand correctly, and some things they just don't. I don't know what to say to those of you out there who struggled with your kids on stuff. Just know that we're all there. We're all there. And Armored Raven, your comment about losing a battle does not guarantee the war is lost. You got to feel that way as a parent. It's so hard, and we have to continue to fight. We have to continue to fight for our kids, at least as parents, And maybe we make progress, maybe we don't, but God, I think, will bless us continually striving for it and praying to him for it. I don't think God lets that kind of prayer go unanswered in some way. It may be a way we don't see, we don't understand, and we don't necessarily always see the fruit of it, but I can't help but think God is he honors those intentions that we have to do good by our children. So I don't know. Yeah, we will pray for your daughter, Mick Grossum, who's 24 and just out of college. Or maybe still in college, but we will. Stacia, you say we institutionalize our kids by sending them to school. The education system is the same as the prison system. In many, many ways, I totally agree with that. Yeah. Yep. I don't want to talk about this anymore. It's making me sad. I do not. No, I don't mind talking about it. I just, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, but it's hard to see sometimes. Yeah, something that's interesting is seeing people that go into that darkness of all that confusion that's out there, but then they come out of it again. Some of those testimonies that I've seen are some powerful testimonies, powerful testimonies that God can bring people back from that and does it, So I don't know. All right, guys. Well, we're getting close to hour and a half. Let me see what our other topic is. That would be Stacia, excuse me. I did it again. Stacia talking about the verse of casting pearls before swine. I think we can do this one. I think this will not take long. Maybe when I say that, I feel bad because I don't mean it's not important, but I do mean that I don't have a ton of information on it. But let's do that topic briefly before we end here. So, casting pearls before swine. Matthew 7:6 is where that is. Give not that. Oh, I got to put it on the thing. I got to put it on the board. Hold on. Don't cast your pearls before the swine. All right. Matthew 7:6. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before the swine, lest they trample them under feet and turn again and tear you. All right. So just the brief context here for this passage. This is part of, as I understand, I think it's still part of the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Judge not that you not be judged. So this whole first part right before this is don't judge your brother. Make sure you self-examine. Take the beam out of your own eye before you cast judgment on your brother who has just a splinter in his eye. So that seems to be the context here. Then right after he says, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock, it will be open to you. Everyone that asks receives, he that seeks finds, and he that knocks, it shall be open to him. So that's kind of where it's talking. So I've examined this verse quite a few times in that context because I have feelings about what this verse means, and I'm not sure that I'm right. I'm not 100% sure that I'm right. So thinking about the context of judging lest you be judged, he says, give not that what is holy. Give not the holy things unto the dogs, or cast your pearls before the swine, lest they trample them and then turn on you. I have a hard time. I do feel, by the way, I feel like some parts of the Sermon on the Mount feel out of order, or like they were just teachings that were taught as a part of that sermon, but they were kind of just stuck in together, even though they may not have been. It's not like we have his sermon recorded here necessarily. So it may be that the surrounding context doesn't really refer to verse 6. It may be that. So I've tried to examine it with that context of judgment and then seeking and finding, but it just doesn't feel like it really fits. I don't know what to say about that other than that. It's just a gut feel. Here's what I have felt about this passage, and I think it's a pretty standard way to think about this verse 6 only. And that is that you don't take what's holy and give it to people that don't care about it. Dogs. Dogs are essentially used throughout the Bible as a very non-discerning type of animal. Just, in fact, it's known that dogs will eat almost anything, right? They're kind of scavengers. And especially at this time, we didn't have domesticated dogs so much. They probably had a few breeds that they domesticated. But it wasn't like now where we have all these different breeds. So dogs were seen as a scavenger. They would be on the outskirts of the city, just kind of roaming around looking for food, like coyotes, if you will. So what it seems to be saying is something about the things that are holy to you. You don't just cast them and give them to anybody. So, because when you do that, if it's a dog, if it's a person that just is undiscerning with their learning and not mature to handle what you give them, they just take it and then eat it and then turn on you because they don't understand what they're receiving, okay? So if I take the holiest things of Scripture and just throw those at somebody who has no clue what I'm talking about, they may act like they understand, and they say, oh yeah, that's great, good job. And then they turn right on you. They turn on you because they don't know what you're talking about. They don't really understand or care. And then they attack you with it. So that seems to be a really good interpretation of at least the mentality of this verse. You give holy things unto people, to people that just do not care about them at all. And they not only don't receive what you've said, but then they turn on you. They take what you've given them, they use it against you, they turn on you and tear you to pieces. And so I have seen this play out in my life, my interactions with other people from time to time, where if you give them too much, for instance, some of the things we talk about on this channel. Now, I have thought a lot about this. Like, do you take the most profound parts of the Scriptures and Christ's coming and his fulfillments, and do you give them to the general public? Because that's what I'm doing on Bible Scribe channel, right? They have people, anyone anywhere has the opportunity to come to my channel and see what I feel is some of the most deep, profound mysteries of the kingdom of heaven and Christ and what he did and what God did for us is some of the most profound things you can ever imagine, some of the holiest things that have ever been in the history of the world. And I recognize that I am putting that information in many places in front of people that will have no context for understanding what I'm talking about at all. And I just, now for some of you on this call, we are there. We are talking about these things with intent, with knowledge, with maturity, understanding. And that is valuable. It's valuable for you. It's valuable for me. We are growing together in this place. But what I came to, as far as what I think is correct, is that I can present this information. Number one, by the way, all the prophecies, all the things I present are not sealed any longer. There were cases in the scriptures where prophecies were given to the prophet, but then sealed. For instance, in Daniel, and I believe in other places, for instance, the book of Esdras, different places. And then Revelation was not sealed. So in that sense, I don't feel like I'm giving away anything that should not be available, but that's just the thing. It's available. Nobody has to look at it. I believe that God blinds those who are not ready. I believe he kind of keeps a shade over their eyes so they can't see when they're not ready. So I have resigned myself to doing this where I do present very deep information, but I don't just shotgun blast it against the wall like some people online do. You got some people online that will do, or on TikTok, for instance, they'll try to reveal the deepest mysteries of God and the kingdom of heaven in 10-second blurbs on TikTok. How valuable is that? To me, it's not very valuable. And so I get around that in just the sense that if you seek, like this verse here in verse 7, if you seek, you will find. And I actually structure my content a little bit that way, to where if you're not digging and you're not willing to go through information with me, you're not going to get there. And I think that you guys hearing me say that, you realize, yeah, that's kind of the way you do it. Like, I don't reveal everything up front in my videos. If you're not going to work with me through the research, through the information, you're not going to get my pearls, right? You're not going to get to the pearls unless you work with me, right? And I think that's the right approach. At least it is for me. So I don't know. Does that feel like a good interpretation of this verse? I feel like it's right. I just don't see in the context of this passage exactly how it connects. So it feels a little funny to me, but I do think that's probably the right interpretation of those verses there. So anyway, to catch up on some entry there, I think Sean Shea, I had said good morning to you. Earth to Cindy, I'm glad you're here. Welcome this morning. I'm glad you're able to join. Looking back up through the comments now just to make sure I didn't miss anything from you guys. I think you're good. I think we're good this morning. It has been a great morning, guys. It's been a great morning. I think this is all awesome stuff. I'm starting to really enjoy the topics that we're talking about, guys. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but the way you guys suggest things, I don't know. It's just neat how God pulls topics out that to me are pertinent both to you and to me, and we're somehow able to go through these different topics on the fly every week. It really is powerful and fun, and man, I just love you guys. I appreciate you. I appreciate your willingness to dig with me. And so I hope you all have a great day, great week. There's more videos on the way. Just be on the lookout. And thank you so much for your attention, your time. God bless each and every one of you. Let's remember to pray for each other. We've had some requests mentioned this week. Please remember to keep people on your prayer list. Thank you so much. God bless.